Awesome. We will go ahead and get started. Looks like it's a smaller group than normal, but that is absolutely fine. Once again, welcome to another Summer Transition Series webinar. My name is Casey Johnstone. I work with new student programs here at Duke. I'm super excited to have this lovely group of panelists here. So I know we've had a few of these already, but I'm going to give you the same old spiel. So the way that this works is I will be moderating the session today. So feel free to post your questions. I'll ask them on your behalf, and then our lovely panelists will answer them and give their perspective. So at the very bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a Q&A box with two little message bubbles. Feel free to click on that and start typing your questions in, and we will get them started. As you can see, I have a few friendly faces with me today. We are joined by some current students on campus who also serve in a variety of student leadership roles. We might have a couple join a little bit later because they are in classes and like doing things this summer. So don't be surprised if we have a new face join us. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and launch it over to, oh, I didn't give our introduction order like I said I was going to. All right, Natalie, I'm gonna kick it off to you, and the rest of the panelists, I'm gonna type an order in our chat. All right, Natalie, it's up to you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Natalie. I am a rising junior at Duke, and I'm studying bio, pre-med with chem and global health minors. And yeah, so excited to welcome you guys to Duke. A few things I'm involved in on campus. I play club soccer and intramural soccer. I do some things with the community through the Spanish-speaking community, and yeah, and I'm a big part of the Duke Catholic Center. And then I'm here as part of the FAC board, or First Year Advisory Council board. So nice to meet you all.
Awesome. I guess I'm next. Hey, everyone. My name is Joe. I'm from Las Vegas. I'm a rising senior studying econ and stats. And with Natalie and Casey, I work with the FAC program. I'm a head FAC for PGRIM, so shout out if you're there. Also at Duke, I'm part of Scale and Coin, which is a business society, and I am varsity fencer.
Cool, I guess I'm next. Hi, everyone. My name is Shami. I'm a senior. Can't believe that, majoring in mechanical engineering with a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm actually originally from Greensboro, so I'm not too far from Duke. A couple of things I'm involved in on campus. I'm one of the leads for E-Team, which is a program, an advisory program for first-year students. So if you're involved in Pratt, you'll probably hear from your E-Team leaders pretty soon. And I'm also involved in the National Society of Black Engineers. I'm a drummer for a mandala chorus, so I can't sing, but I do play the drums for them. Yeah, those are a couple of the things I'm involved in.
Cool. My name's Garrett. I'm a stats math double major with a minor in poli-sci, and I'm from Tempe, Arizona. A few things about me. I'm here because I'm the team lead for Peer Success Leaders. It's a peer advising program on campus. And a few things I do on campus. I do something called America Reads, America Counts, where you basically go to the Durham community and you tutor kids. And I'm involved in Fast Connections and a couple other, and some music related stuff. So yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Isabella. I'm also a rising junior at Duke. I'm planning to study biomedical engineering and computer science. And I'm currently home in New York, actually. And a few things I'm involved in on campus are some international student programs. So I'm here as part of the KSOP program, which will welcome a few hundred students from DKU in the fall, which is pretty exciting. And outside of Duke, I'm involved in a few volunteering things off campus where I teach fifth graders over the summer. And I'll pass it on to Grace.
Yeah, so we have a behind the scenes person, Grace, no worries. So You don't see her, but she is there. As you can tell, we have quite a few people with a huge myriad of experiences. So really, this is your space to ask questions and get the student experience and the student perspective. These are current Duke students living the dream. So I know that our previous webinars have been with some like campus staff, but this is your chance to start connecting with some students. So if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. I will go ahead and ask some questions that were submitted ahead of time, but feel free to start typing in your questions. Okay, so this is just a fan favorite. Just a fan favorite for on campus. But what is your favorite eatery? Like, let's say on campus eatery, and then if you have an off campus eatery too, like what's your go-to?
I can start. My favorite on-campus eatery is Div Cafe. I love their baked oatmeal. It's so good. So definitely try that one out.
Mine too is probably Div Cafe, but I'll give a huge shout out to Panda Express. I think they have some really great options, and I eat there probably almost every other day.
My favorite is also Div Cap, but to add variety, I really like ginger and soy, specifically the side where you can make your own bowl. The secret is to ask for like 2 different sauces that you can add in to whatever you get. So I get the Szechuan sauce and then sriracha because I like things a little spicy, and it always makes my day. It's a good lunch.
I really like Craft House. It's standard American fare, but it's good when for a night hangout type thing. So it's underneath and it's all dark, so it's nice.
I'm also a huge fan of Div Cap, but I feel like as an upperclassman, like I actually really miss like the breakfast at Marketplace a lot because like it's so hard to find fruit on camp, like on West Campus. So if you're a freshman, like I would make good use of that in freshman year while you still have it.
And the brunch on the weekends. Those are my favorite meals. Yeah.
Breakfast is definitely the best part of Marketplace.
Okay, so an overwhelming love of Divinity Cafe is what I'm hearing. Okay, next question. It's specifically to you, Garrett. I wanted to ask Garrett how he is able to manage his double major.
Sure. I believe Joe also said that he has a double major, so he might be able to answer this as well. But you had to do a little bit of careful planning beforehand. I knew coming in, I kind of wanted to do a double major, or so I like a lot of different things, especially because I have a poli-sci minor, which is completely unrelated to the other things. So you have to do a little bit of planning. But if you pick 2 things that are closely related, like math and stats are pretty closely related, like I think I only needed a couple more stats classes to get an actual major once I did stuff that works out with the math major. So it kind of depends. Certain things will require more planning. If you're going to do like math and then sociology, there's almost like no overlap between those things. So you have to really like plan out your course schedules. But if you pick stuff that's closely related, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely second that. I'm econ and stats, and there's a lot of overlap in the middle there. I will say though, like keep in mind that if you do like something like that's related like that, sometimes you have a little bit difficulties in fulfilling other TRECs. I know for me, I'm like still looking at like, oh, how do I like fulfill my EI or like my CZ codes? So nothing too like to heavily worry about, like especially like in your first year, but definitely be a little mindful of that, especially later down the line.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. I haven't gotten any natural science credits, so I really have to figure out where to get my natural science stuff. But otherwise, like it's totally doable. You totally have enough classes to do double majors and whatever you want to do. Note though, you can only get 3 things, so you can get like 2 majors and a minor, like, but you can't get like more than 3 things like that.
And don't feel pressured to get multiple things. I know it's like a classic thing to be like, I major in this, certificate in this, minor in this, like no pressure to do all that actually.
Great, thank you. Next question is directed at Natalie. Can Natalie please talk about pre-med her freshman year, the classes she took and overall experience? And then there's a follow-up question about studying abroad, question mark.
Yeah, definitely. So there's that recommended pre-med course list that you can see. I think it's on the pre-health advising website. And so kind of just knocking out those requirements were the first step of that pre-med experience. So getting your chemistries, those are the big ones, and your bios and physics. Those are kind of chem, biophysics are like the 3 core of those recommended pre-med classes. And yeah, I love my experience, and I've definitely found that it's not just pre-med classes I'm taking. Since I'm bio pre-med, a lot of my pre-med classes overlap with bio, and vice versa, but I have friends who are different majors that are also pre-med, so they just take those pre-med recommended courses and then other classes as well, instead of just like strictly bio electives. And on the abroad note, I was going to go abroad, but then COVID put a halt in those plans for me. So I think next year I'll be going to the Marine Lab in the fall, but if you want to go abroad, it's definitely possible pre-med, 100%. I didn't have any trouble. I planned it all out, so I kind of know the process, but yeah, I didn't have any trouble fitting in course requirements or anything. And definitely abroad, I wouldn't take those hard hitters like biochem or physics abroad or biochem abroad, but you can take your TREX or just other classes you enjoy, or if it's a language-based program, take your language classes abroad. But it's way easier than you would expect to fit those classes into your schedule. And I would really highly recommend going abroad. I think it's a really cool experience.
Thank you. So next question is, would you recommend bringing a mini fridge?
I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but it does become pretty convenient, especially when you live on East Campus. So I can speak to my experience. I lived in Trinity, and Trinity is like the furthest campus away from Marketplace. So my roommate and I, we went half on renting a mini fridge for the school year. And we would always like sometimes get some extra food and then bring it and store it in the fridge in case like we knew we wouldn't feel like going to Marketplace later in the day. And then especially if you have like a diet that's very specific that you know you may not be able to find on campus. Like for example, my roommate was obsessed with making overnight oats. So she especially needed that fridge. It was very helpful. And then it's like a great way to store extra snacks and things. So it's definitely not a necessity, but it can become really convenient if you would like it.
Yeah, I'll second that. And also just make sure you consult with your roommate before you do that, because sometimes they might be thinking the same thing, and you guys don't want to show up with too many fridges, because you can just rent one once you get to Duke. Like you don't necessarily have to outright buy one. So consult with your roommate first.
Always good advice. Talk to your roommate. Next question is, who should be in the team of advisors / mentors who we consult at Duke? And this question, they said, is specifically for engineering.
Yeah, so right now, I guess I can speak to that. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in Pratt. Okay. So essentially, the way that Pratt has organized part of your mentorship circle, it involves eTeam. So they kind of redesigned it, and I may not have all the details right now, but I'll tell you as much as I know right now. So right now, students currently have a Life 360 coach, and that's kind of like an advisor who can give you advice like with regards to academics, but also things relating to like adjusting to being a first-year student on campus, a student in Pratt, give you advice on selecting classes and things like that, and then also pointing you to resources that they may not have like direct knowledge of, but they know is out there. So that's like your first point of contact. And then with every life coach, you're going to have an E-team mentor, which I mentioned earlier. So that mentor is also going to be able to give you advice, resources, but more so from a student perspective. And then your E-team mentor should also be planning like bonding events and things, because you're going to have, I think, no more than 15 peers assigned to the same life coach. So hopefully you guys will be able to form a community and have that source of support. And I'm sure there are other resources as well. Even though you're in Pratt, you still have access to the ARC, which is the Academic Resource Center, the Academic Advising Center. I think some things may have been renamed over this year, so I may be misnaming them, but there are plenty of resources, and a lot of them are actually on our E-team website. So if you just look up Duke E-team, I'm pretty sure there's a page that gives you like an overview of all the resources that we at least have.
It wasn't asked, but I'm going to throw the same question to our Trinity group, because I feel like this is just a natural segue.
Yeah, I can speak on that a bit. You have those same things, the ARC, Academic Advising Center and Academic Resource Center. One that I would really recommend that I've benefited a lot from is the DAE. That's the Director of Academic Engagement. And there are one of those for a lot of different areas. There's like, I use natural and quantitative studies. And yeah, I have a meeting with her tomorrow. I found it super helpful. They just help you go through a 4-year plan and which classes you want to take. And that's kind of been my biggest help for a broader overview, but I've definitely benefited from lots of different advisors like that too.
I also self-plug, but I highly recommend the Peer Success Leaders. It's a peer advising program. It's done through the Academic Resource Center and such. And you know, it's nice because you're meeting with a student. Everyone will have one assigned to their dorm. So if you're on East Campus, which I'm assuming most of you are freshmen, but some of you may be transfer students, there's still some assigned on West Campus. Then you will be able to have someone assigned to your dorm you can meet with, and they'll totally be willing to talk to you and hook you up with, you know, other people you need to talk to. So I highly recommend them because, you know, they're another person on campus and they're also a student, so they'll understand your experience a little better. So yeah.
Great, thank you. There is a question about housing. And it says, is there a way to find your room's layout/size before arriving? I'm seeing nods.
I'll take a crack at this. I don't know if it was DSG that did this initiative, but I think there is something that's like, they took photos in every dorm to just kind of see what a standard room would be. But again, it's like tough to do what a standard room is, because like depending on if you have a corner room or if you're on different floors, it might vary. But yeah, I think there is a resource out there. Not exactly sure how to get it, but we'll follow up on that hopefully.
That was a great filler while I looked it up. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, everything that Joe just said. I put a link in the chat. There is a there's a Facebook group or page that is called Duke Housing and Residence Life. And everything that Joe just said, DSG did 360 tours to get a sense of some of the spaces. So feel free to check that out. Great. Next question is about the lovely buses. So how is managing the bus schedule from east to west? And maybe what is a way to check the bus schedule?
Oh, you can go, Isabel.
I personally use the app. I think it's called Translog, and I think it's like pretty accurate, or it's like pretty decent for if you're trying to see like where the bus is. But like in freshman year, I would say that like if you have a ton of classes, it's it does get to be kind of a lot because you're like constantly trying to go from like east to west and like west to east. So I would try, like, one thing that I think helped in freshman year was like before, like the day before classes or something, like trying to like walk your schedule a bit and like get to know like how long it takes to like walk from your dorm to the bus stop, and then like how long the like bus ride takes, and then like how long it takes to like walk from like the stop to like your class. So like that whole thing, like once you get more used to it, it's a lot better. But it can be kind of a lot to manage at first, I would say.
Yeah, and definitely there are times where the buses are way busier than others. So you'll figure out when you have an 8:30 on West that everyone else also has an 8:30 on West. So just kind of figuring out when you need to leave to make sure you get on a bus before that class. But yeah, it's not that bad. It's a pretty quick bus ride, and there are a few different buses. There's one that goes to Science Drive, which will have your chem classes, bio classes, science classes. And then there's the normal C1 that goes to the normal bus stop. And yeah, so I think just feeling it out the first week is really helpful. But yeah, just knowing when you're going to be waiting in lines for buses too.
Just another quick thing note, a couple specifics. I think the C1 usually takes like 7 to 10 minutes to get over if there isn't like a huge backup. So like between classes, that's how much it takes. Buses come pretty frequently, but you should plan, 15 to 20 minutes, between classes if you're going between east and west, and that's if you're close to the bus stop. I made for a while from Biddle, which is all the way on East Campus, to Science Drive, and I made that in like 25 minutes consistently. That's hard to do. I was late a few times, but it's definitely doable. You'll figure it out once you get on campus. Another thing about the C3, if you're going to Science Drive and you'd like in a time crunch, take the C1 instead and just walk there, because the C3 goes to a bunch of other places, and it'll take like 25 minutes to get to Science Drive with C3 when it'll take much less time to just take the C1 and walk. So that's a few tips.
The ins and outs of buses. And I will say too, because like as a staff member who works on East Campus, we have I frequent myself. I frequent to West Campus a lot too. And some of those peak busy times, the bus system typically tries to accommodate as best they can those like peak class change times. So you'll notice some like frequency of buses just for class change, just to like get people around. Awesome. Thank you all for your advice. There's a follow-up transportation question, and it's, do you recommend having a bike on campus? A lot of my classes are a half hour apart, so I just want to make sure I can get around easily.
A lot of my friends, sorry, Isabella, go ahead.
It's all right, it's all right. A lot of my friends actually do have bikes on campus, but I would say like there are some places like on campus that aren't like super easy to bike, honestly. So like you'd have to like find like a specific route that works for your bike. I would say it's not like a necessity, but it does make it more convenient. And it's also really nice if you're planning to go off campus a lot, because it just makes it so much easier to like go and buy food from like Harris Teeter, which is right off of East, or like if you're trying to go to like a restaurant off of West, it is easier. And one thing I would also add is like a lot of my friends have had their like parts of their bike stolen, or like their whole bike stolen. So like I would just be kind of careful if you're planning to like buy a bike, just to be like wary that like it does happen, and just to make sure that like you're like aware of that, I guess.
Another thing I would say is, someone who didn't own a bike, if you have 30 minutes between your classes, that's more than enough time to like get anywhere on campus without a bike. So don't worry too much if that's your concern. a lot of the bike paths are really narrow. Like there's not like bike lanes. Oftentimes you just have to be on the sidewalk. And like if you want to go from like west to east, that sidewalk can be pretty narrow at parts. So that's something to think about. But I definitely agree that it is very convenient if you're trying to go off campus and it does speed up times between classes, but 30 minutes is more than enough time.
Shami, did you have something to add?
Nothing really new. I agree with everything Garrett and Isabella just said.
Let's see. How do you manage the logistics of doing laundry on campus?
For me, I think the key to doing laundry, well, I guess I'll explain how laundry works. So in every dorm, it's different on West Campus, but since you guys are first years, you guys have laundry in every dorm. There's like normally a laundry room, and then you're able to put money on your Duke card. I think you put it on your Flex. And I think, I don't remember really, but I think a washing machine costs $125 and maybe drying costs $150. But there's obviously a limited number of laundry machines. So the key is to not go during peak time. So don't go over the weekend, especially in the evening over the weekend. Everybody is trying to wash their clothes then. I recommend trying to do your laundry maybe in between classes during the week or maybe during the evening. On a weekday, like those are the best times just because you won't see that many people. And honestly, every dorm has a different culture when it comes to doing laundry. I know when I was a first year, like Pegram had a system of you placing your basket on top of a washing machine that you plan on using in the future. And then I think there was another dorm that had a sign-up sheet. So honestly, like every system is a little bit different, but in terms of timing, do not do it over the weekend and evenings. I had to learn that lesson the hard way.
I think in addition to like laundry culture, please, like if you do laundry, take it out of the washer and put it in the dryer and like take it out from the dryer. You don't want to be that person who like puts it in and then just like leaves like their stuff in like the washer overnight or like over 2 days. Because one, your laundry gets gross, and two, it's like not really nice to everybody else. So just wanted to do a PSA for that.
And if you leave it in the washer or the dryer, some people get passive aggressive and they just like take it all out and they put it somewhere, and then it just leads to distress. And yeah, just try to avoid that altogether.
Also make sure to clean out the lint thing so that it doesn't catch fire when you use the dryer. So like, just make sure to do that. That happened at Pegram, I think so.
My goodness. I mean, cleaning your lint trap is just a good general rule of thumb for all dryers, not just at Duke. Oh goodness. There's a question. I'm not sure if any of you will be able to answer it, but hopefully. Is there a difference between Math 216, 218, and 221? They are all linear algebra courses, and they look pretty similar.
Yeah, I can take this. So Math 221 is the one I took. So that's the, like, if you want to be like a math major, or like you like want the introduction to proofs, or like you don't know if you want to be a math major and maybe you want to try it out, that's what I would recommend starting with Math 221. So that's where you do some intros to proofs and you do it in linear algebra context. The teachers are really flexible. They're really good. They're really nice. Math 218, I just pulled it up. Yeah, so Math 218 is matrices and vector spaces. And the difference there is that you don't do as many proofs, and it's more intended for computer science and like data focused stuff. So like stats, computer science, those sorts of things. And you know, it's hard to tell you what that's going to feel like beforehand, but it's just a different focus. If that's what you're more interested in, then that's sort of what you would do. You're not going to do very many proofs like you would in Math 221. And then Math 216 is sort of focused much more on the engineering aspect. It's much more for engineers. So like if you're in Pratt or like you think that's something you want to do, I would probably take Math 216. But any of them would satisfy your linear requirement pretty much. Math 221 is going to go most in depth with the proofs, with the theory behind it, and then the other two are sort of like depending on what your focus is, but less proofs. And if you don't know what proofs are, visit both the first month, or first, like, no, sorry, not month, like 2 weeks and then see which one you like more. And then typically people will drop out of those and you'll have space to change if you need to.
I took 216 for Pratt, and my friend took 218. So if you're planning to take either of those, you can like feel free to like reach out. I can talk more about them.
And like other thing to add, for 216, there's the prerequisite of taking 212, which is multivariable calculus. And then for 218, you don't have to take multi in order to take that class. And I'm not sure if there are prerequisites for 221.
You don't need anything for 221.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Next question is about the buses. And I'm going to take the first part of it and then I'll throw it out to you all. There's a question about, are the buses running half capacity due to COVID? And the answer as of 4:34 on July 21st is yes. I don't know if that when or if that will change. But as of right now, they are running at 50% capacity, just for, health and safety right now as we transition back to in-person experiences. I know they are being cleaned and sanitized daily. And also it's important to note that masks are required on the buses. So if you're vaccinated, you do not have to be masked like around campus, but if you are on the bus, it doesn't matter whether you are unvaccinated or vaccinated, masks are required for all passengers. So that is something to keep in mind. So even if you're not having to wear a mask around campus or maybe in some of the buildings, if you plan on taking the bus, be sure to just pack a mask in your pocket or in your backpack or whatever, because you will need it for the buses. So that is that. But the other half of that question was, I have an 8:30 a.m. class in Gross Hall. Should I take the C1 or the C3? And is Gross Hall to Friedel building doable in 30 minutes?
I can take.
Oh, sorry.
I can take the first part of the first one with should I take C1 or C3? I think depending on which one you get on that day and how early you leave, you'll see sometimes one will be full, so you just hop on the other one. But the C3, like we were mentioning before, definitely takes longer, I think, than just getting on the C1 and walking. But yeah, you can take either one. It'll probably balance out to like within 5 minutes of each other. The C1 would just require more walking.
I also took an 8:30 and I had to get the science drive. And I found that the C3 would get me there like consistently late. So I highly recommend taking the C1. The C3 is really just if you see that there's no way you're gonna get on. I'm like it would be, I think it would almost be beneficial to wait for another C1 and get on C3 a lot of time. So it's sort of like if there's so many people that you don't think are going to get on, then get on the C3, or you don't feel like walking because it's too cold, but it gets you there pretty consistently late in my experience.
This is interesting to hear because I also had an 8:30 in Gross Hall, and I love taking the C3. Especially as like the school year trickles out and then people switch to taking the C1. The secret is to take the C3 that leaves between like 8 and 8:07, because then it gets you there on time. If you take the one that arrives a little bit later, you definitely won't make it. I think like that bus is better for 8:45 classes. Yeah, but I also don't like walking. So maybe that's why I just prefer to take the C3.
I guess I can take the other question that you mentioned, which was if you can make it from Gross Hall to Friedel in about half an hour. I didn't have a class on Frito, but I did have a class on East after my class in Girls Hall, and it was doable. I would just like, if you're planning to like stay after class and like ask questions and stuff, that like it might not be as doable. Like you might have to like leave pretty much like right when your class ends, so you have enough time to like get to the bus stop and like wait for the bus, because like the bus won't be like exactly like on time all the time. So like you have to leave like a bit of like buffer time. But it should be doable. Like if you get to the bus stop and it comes within like 5 to 10 minutes, it's about like a 5 to 10 minute like bus ride there. So it's like possible. It's just like you might need to like leave the class pretty early after it ends.
I promise that the bus schedule is something that you will become very familiar with, and it will become second nature to you. So it might seem, if you've never ridden public transit before or had to rely on buses, it might seem overwhelming, but I promise you it just becomes a part of your normal routine. You kind of you kind of know when to anticipate buses, and the routes and how long it will take. So I promise that it'll be easy, and it'll be an easy adjustment. I promise. There was a question about what are the times the buses operate, and I believe Grace put in the chat a link to the parking website that shares the bus schedule and the routes. And then, as someone mentioned earlier, there's an app that you can download on your phone. It's called Transloc, TRANSLOC. And that, oh, look at Shami, beautiful. That has, if you click it, it'll give you real time of where the buses are and how long it'll take for them to get to whatever stop you're at. So that'll be really helpful. All right, next question is, what time should I get in the bus line to make it to Gross Hall for EGR 101? I'm assuming like in general, how long before their class, I'm assuming, is what they're asking.
Yeah, good question. To my knowledge, EGR 101 is either in Gross in the Foundry, or it's in the Pod, which is pretty deep in EQuad by LSRC. Okay, I'll just give you the logic of what my thought process, and then maybe it'll be different for you. I lived in Trinity, so it took me about 5 minutes to walk from Trinity to the bus stop. So I knew that when I was looking at Transloc, I would try to make sure I was ready to like leave my room like 7 minutes before the bus came. So then I would get onto the bus. The bus took 7 minutes to get to main campus, and then to get from the bus stop on main campus to Gross or to the Pod, like I would give myself another 7 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes, because I feel like I always stop and see somebody and I want to say hi or something like that. So I would try to make my way over to EQuad. Like I would give myself 30 minutes normally. And I think that gives like plenty of breathing room as well. So that's my logic. But then like to add on to what Casey was saying, you will definitely find your rhythm. I would say like as you're going through your first couple weeks of classes, like make sure to give yourself extra time, because maybe you'll get lost. Hopefully you won't get lost because there are maps, but like make sure to give yourself extra time as you get into the swing of things. And I promise you, like by the time you reach like week 2 or maybe week 3, like you will know exactly how you want to get places and you'll find your rhythm.
Also, like one thing that might be helpful, like since like I personally found it kind of hard to like wake up like pretty early in the morning. So it's also nice to like go to class with a friend. Like so like this might not be like, I guess, realistic in the first week or so, but like in like the first month or so, if you do meet someone who like sits next to you in class or something, it's like nice to kind of like have a time that you guys can both like commit to like getting to the bus stop. So then like you'll feel more motivated to like give yourself that time in the morning.
Awesome. Next question is back to you, Shami. So what type of computer is recommended for, I'm assuming that's mechanical engineering. So just Pratt, what type of computer is best for Pratt? Can a Mac be used?
Yeah, so I use a Mac, so it's definitely possible. I'm a senior, I made it through, or I almost made it through the program with a Mac. One thing I will say, especially as a Mechie, you're going to use SolidWorks, which is this CAD design software that helps you create 3D models, and that only works on PC platforms. So there are two ways to remediate that disconnect as a Mac owner. So you can either pay $70 to buy Parallels, and Parallels is this software that basically creates a virtual PC machine on your Mac system. And that's what some students do. And then something that I did, like I just downloaded like a PC software onto my computer. So that took up about 80 gigs of my storage. And then I'm able to do this thing where I restart my computer and then I choose which platform I want to open. So like I switch from the Mac machine to the PC machine, and then I open up Windows, and then I'm able to do 3D design on my laptop. So it really depends on your preference. The reason why I use Mac, I also like do short filmmaking, and I like iMovie and Premiere Pro on the Mac better. So it honestly has to do with your preference and what you prefer. When I first started, I did get roasted for having a Mac. So I don't know if like rep or cred is like important to you. Like maybe if it is, then like go for the PC. But yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you. Okay, next question is, how does taking 5 courses in the first semester I transfer look? I know this depends on the individual, but generally, should people have a lighter course load because it's their first semester so that they can have time to adjust?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it's 5 classes is a lot, and I think that you should take a minute to see how 4 classes looks, and it definitely depends on which classes they are. So I would take maybe the first 2 weeks to see how your schedule is doing, and you can either have a class in that drop add period that you are in, and you can drop it if it's too much, or you can just see how your 4 classes are going and join one if you think it's a lighter schedule. But I think giving yourself time to adjust is really important. And especially that first semester, you're getting used to so many new things. So I don't know if you really want to overload yourself there too. And you'll be able to fit everything in.
I totally agree. I do think that a lot of the transition for a lot of people, like when you're a first year, is just college in general. So it might be a little bit easier to transition to a different college as opposed to transitioning like to college from high school. So I totally agree. You should look at the first 2 weeks, see how you're doing. It's definitely doable. Like I've taken more credits than that. It was the best idea I've had. I have a lot of music courses, so I end up having a lot more credits than normal. But yeah, totally see how it feels. There's no shame in taking 4 classes. That's a full course load. Let's be clear. That is the normal course load. 5 is extra.
Great, thank you both for that. Next question is, when should we expect move-in info on the move, or excuse me, when should we expect more info on the move-in process, testing protocols, times, etc.? I can go ahead and take that one. I know this is like the $1 million question that everybody is answering or asking, and I feel like the answer has been the same, where it's just hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. I can say that there are multiple folks around like campus that are having these conversations, and we are so close to finalizing everything. So again, I'm going to say hang tight, but just know that information is coming soon. there are some added logistics this year with everybody having to complete a baseline test upon arrival. And so we're figuring out those logistics, but within the next couple of weeks, we will have information sent out to everybody, including, you know, it's a different process if you're doing a pre-orientation program versus if you're not. So there are some nuance that are being finalized right now, but I promise you, information is coming soon and we will get it to you as soon as we have it. Next question is, what happens between move-in and the first day of class?
Yeah, so this is where OE comes in. Honestly, the time in between is to really just get adjusted to the new environment. I really recommend this is the time to, you know, talk to new people, really reach out, just see the multitude of, you know, different resources and options that Duke has to offer. There's going to be like a lot of events that we host as well. So I, you know, urge you guys to go to those. I think they're, you know, really informative, pretty fun. Also, during that first week too, if you go to those events, they hand out a lot of swag. So if you like free stuff or free food, highly, highly recommend doing that while you can.
I also, during O week can be a little overwhelming with how many things there are to do. You don't have to go to all of them. If it's something like, if you get to the point in your schedule where like, I just want to go back to my dorm and like rest for a little bit, get familiar with my dorm, talk to my dorm mate, talk to some people in dorm, that's fine. Go do that. And you don't like, it feels like the end of the world if you don't go see every single orientation event, but it's like totally not. It totally won't matter. You'll figure it out anyways. But yeah, a lot of the events are fun. So I would recommend attending a good amount of them, but don't feel guilt if you like are overwhelmed by it. It's a lot of change all at once.
And not to plug my org, but in addition to all the FAC events, E-Team will also have events so you can meet your mentor. We have fun games. We're going to have logo pops. You guys will come to learn how good logo pops are. So please come to E-Team events too. But also rest if you feel like you need to do that.
Balance loco pops and rest. Yeah, there are a ton of events. O week happens that week. But it's all geared towards helping you adjust, as Joe said. Follow-up question, if move-in and orientation are both the 17th, is there any orientation programming the 17th, or is it all just unpacking and actually moving in? I can start it a little bit because I know that we're finalizing the orientation schedule right now. So basically orientation kicks off with your move-in experience. So you'll spend the majority of the day moving in. Again, specific details about your move-in window and how that will work are coming soon. But that'll be the majority of the day. We do have some fun like social programming that night, just to give you an opportunity to really experience East Campus. And specifically for first year students, there will be like an East Campus carnival to help welcome you to East Campus and get to know some folks with like food and games and stuff. And then for our transfer students, they'll also be moving in on August 17th, and then there'll be some transfer specific social programming so that you can get to know your peers. But I don't know if Joe, Natalie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think just know that if family members or other people you're moving in with are there too, you can definitely spend time with them on that day. I know my parents were there, so it was hard to balance that, or I was scared about balancing that. But yeah, say goodbye to your parents or your family members or whoever's with you. Spend time with them and don't feel pressure. But yeah, there are lots of fun events that day as well.
Awesome. Next question is, how strict are the AP/IPC prerequisites for first year math? Would we be able to take a placement test instead? I wanted to start with math 112/122, but I was moderated to a 5 for IB HL math and don't have the prereq. I don't know if anyone on this chat can answer that. That might be a more specific question.
I don't really know about the IB stuff very much. Someone else can maybe speak to that because I took AP tests, but our placement tests, I would recommend emailing Hubert Gray. He's the coordinator of like undergraduate studies stuff for math, and he can give you a lot more information about how to do placement tests, where you should be in math. They'll work with you. If you know the material and you can take a placement test on it, you should be able to go there. So I would recommend reaching out to the Hubert Gray and really anyone in the Department of Math if you can't find his email for whatever reason, but yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those nuanced questions that it's probably best to get a specific answer for your situation. Next question is, speaking of computers, is there a preference of computer for comp sci or stats majors?
Personally, as a stats major, I use a Mac and haven't had any issues with it. I know a lot of like comp sci people and stats people that are both like either have a Mac or either have a PC, and they've been just fine with it. I think the engineering might be a little bit more specific, like with the software, but generally for stats, comp sci, I don't think there's really a problem in between the two platforms.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is sometimes there are programs that only exist on PC, but it usually doesn't impact you. Like you use R, which is on both in the stats department, and comp sci you use Java, which is on both. So it's not too big of a deal.
Yeah, and I think just remember, like, you're not going to be the only one with a Mac or PC, whichever one. So there are always workarounds, and everyone's in the same boat as you. So it won't just be you with the wrong computer or something.
Great advice there. Next question is, when should we expect to receive our Common Experience book, Such a Fun Age, in the mail? I can also take this one. So books were mailed out to our domestic students on Friday, this past Friday. So I would expect them within the next week or so. International students should have been sent a code to get a digital copy of the book, so that you won't have a physical copy mailed to you, but you should have access to a digital version. Yeah, so those should be coming soon, and it's a really good book, and I'm really excited about it. And we'll have the author, Kylie Reed, joining us at the start of the semester. So that's exciting. What is everyone's favorite color?
I used to answer red as a kid, but it's probably green now.
I've decided to start saying that I have a favorite color palette. So I like the color palette of sunset.
Duke blue, baby. I don't know, like probably blue though, I would say.
Yeah, I really like the forest. So just like forest greens or like ivy. So yeah, that's my vibe.
I like all greens in general, basically.
I've never heard someone answer that with a palette, but I love that. The sunset colors. I love that. Next question is, can you please tell us about the FAC program, what it is, how it works, what we do together?
Yes, I can. So you will be assigned a FAC, and that FAC is assigned to a bigger dorm team. And so based on what dorm you're in, you'll be in a group with about, it depends on the size of your dorm, but like 8 to 10 other students with you. And then the FAC in charge of your group will have FAC chats or discussions with you throughout orientation week. And you'll get to know the other members of your FAC group. And yeah, you guys just have discussions. They'll give you tours, introduce you to a lot of resources. They'll be one of your main point people during that orientation week. And we really like that relationship to continue throughout the semester and the year as well. So the FAC will be a great resource for you. And you'll meet a lot of friends from your dorm in that FAC group.
Yeah, agreed. They're just really there for resource to help you transition. Also, it's a great way just to like meet other people in your dorm that aren't just on your floor or like that aren't just next to you. So you can definitely engage with the FAC chats and with your FAC group.
Yeah, and typically you're not in the same FAC group as your roommate.
Awesome. All right, I want to be mindful of time because I know we only have about 2 minutes left. So I guess closing question is, what is the best piece of advice that you received about your experience at Duke? Does that make sense? Like, what's the best piece of advice that you've received?
I can go first. Yeah, it was the senior that I met, and I don't think I understood like what her advice was or what it meant until like I was a junior. So she basically said to view your life as a simulation, right? Which like extends outside of the debate of whether or not life is a simulation, but view yourself as an avatar. And you have like all these different options, right? You have so many resources and opportunities laying at your feet. And you have the option to choose whatever you would like to do. And I think like, or I guess I don't fully understand what she means yet, but I think the essence of her advice was basically to not feel overwhelmed by all the resources and choices you have as a student and as somebody who's going into becoming themselves, but view it as an opportunity to explore yourself, explore your interests, understand that you're going to change and evolve as a person and give yourself grace while doing that. So don't be afraid to like push your boundaries, try out new things, see what's new, but still like know the core of who you are. And I guess like with the simulation part, like I just took it as a way to say, don't take life too seriously, right? No matter what decision you make, the great thing about Duke is that like almost no decision is a bad decision, whether that comes to choosing a club or friends or majors or anything. Like eventually it's going to work out for you. So don't feel too overwhelmed with everything. It'll be okay.
I can go next. I think this isn't exactly advice that was given to me, but I was doing a thing called Winter Breakaway, and we were in a team, and we were trying to design to do what Duke would look like in 2030. And one of the deans, I forget which dean it was, she said that the biggest regret they've heard from like alumni is that they viewed their classmates as competitors rather than collaborators. And I thought that was a really important thing to keep in mind, because Duke can feel really competitive and like you need to keep up and need to do all these things. But they're just, they're your classmates. They're people to collaborate and work with and be friends with. And, keep that in mind that, it's not a rat race. It's not a race to the top. It's your experience, and whatever your experience is will be valid and good. So like, don't stress so much. It'll be fine.
I think the advice that I got and will pass on is just like enjoy it. It will go fast. It has gone for me. I'm having like, my quarter life crisis now, but just enjoy while you can. Duke also just has like a ton of resources. So like utilize it while you can, because in the future, you're gonna have to pay so much money for like a yoga class, or like you're gonna have to, you don't have like access to like a wellness center or something like that. So just enjoy while you can, utilize the resources, make lots of friends, just enjoy yourself.
I think mine would be get out of your comfort zone. Don't just go do everything that you're planning on doing. Just pick something or surround yourself with people that are different from you and just make yourself uncomfortable, because that's where you're going to grow the most. And yeah, that's where I've definitely seen the most growth in myself, is just when I do something that I hadn't planned on doing, that I ended up loving.
Yeah, I like a lot of what's been said so far. Yeah, there's no real like right way to like go through college, I think. So like don't try to compare yourself with like other people, or like even if they're in the same major, like they might have like a very different path in the future. So like just don't stress too much. And also one other piece of advice I got was to like talk to a lot of like upperclassmen and just people who like might not be on the same path as you, but like might be just like interesting to like learn from, and kind of like pick their brains a bit. That helped me a lot, because like in freshman year I wasn't really sure like what I wanted to study, like which way I wanted to go, and to like see people who have kind of like been there, and like have like gone through like a path that like you might be thinking about, is actually like quite helpful.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us and asking your questions. Huge shout out to the panelists for sharing your experience and your perspective. I know that you all will likely meet all of the incoming students when they arrive. Shameless plug for our last webinar. It is coming up. Holy cow, it means that the summer is almost over. Super exciting, but our last webinar will be August 4th. That is our Welcome to Duke webinar. The families are also welcome, so that's really open to anyone, families, transfer students, first year students, anyone. We'll be talking about move-in, orientation week, pre-orientation programs, all that good stuff. So come with your questions. We are excited to welcome you. I can't believe that it is happening so soon. Second shameless plug is 30 Days to Duke is happening now. So that is some peer-led content that is peer-led content to like get you hyped and count down your final 30 days before you are here on campus. So yes, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on August 4th. Bye all.